Hi, and welcome to episode 32 of the Blue Mouse Podcast. My name's Emily. I'm the full-time knitwear designer behind the Blue Mouse, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram under that same name. And yeah, it's been a few weeks. I took a longer break than I intended to, but I'm very happy to be back and chatting with you guys this week. I've got a few things to share with you today, and yeah, I'm just really happy to be back and chatting with you guys. I've missed you. So I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, so it'll be kind of a quieter podcast than normal. Not that my podcasts aren't normally pretty quiet and chill, but just to let you know that's why today will be even more so. But yeah, I'm wearing my flow sweater, which I just put out yesterday. It's a 3/4 length sleeve drop shoulder sweater that uses garter stitch details and drop stitches, which you can kind of see here and here. And it has a nice, really fun rolled hem at the neckline that I'll stand up and show you. There's the rolled neckline. And yeah, I'm in a new spot today. I'm in my chair that I got for my birthday that I told you guys about a few weeks ago. And I had actually filmed a podcast on my phone, I think 2 weeks ago, and the audio was just terrible. Something happened to it and I decided not to post it because it was so bad. So this is kind of big recap over the past 3 weeks. But yeah, so I've been taking it kind of easy today and actually yesterday as well. I woke up with a horrible UTI yesterday, so I was just kind of out of it all day and just sleeping a lot and drinking lots of water. And whenever I get them, I kid you not, I feel like I am going to die. I get them so bad, and yeah, it takes me way longer for the pain medication to kick in. So it was a pretty horrible day and such a terrible surprise. But yeah, I know some people think that that's probably too much information, but I also kind of respect people when they are willing to share about that kind of stuff, because I know that that is an extremely common issue that women struggle with, or especially women struggle with. So yeah, just keeping it real. We all have that happen, or a lot of us do, and it is terrible. It sucks. So that is actually, I struggle with those a lot. And I've tried a bunch of different things to stop getting them, and I don't know why it keeps happening, but it does. And that's actually what kicked off the chronic pain that I've been having for the past 10 months. It was all started because I got 3 of them in a row, and it just caused a lot of pelvic muscle issues from there. So it's no joke, and they suck, but I don't know, I'm just here to let you know that they're normal and lots of people get them, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. So yeah, I've got a sweater I've been working on that I want to share with you, because this is my newest release, but the next thing I think that I have started, I'm not sure if I even had started this when we talked last. I know I showed this in my Patreon video when I was first working on the short rows, and now I am, a quarter of the way through the body and also a quarter of the way through one sleeve. So this is going to be a men's moss stitch raglan sweater that is worked from the top down and completely seamless. So here it is. And yeah, it's also going to be a gift for my husband. So here's one of the sleeves, completely in seed stitch, and the yoke, which has, I think, 4 stitches in the seams. So you can see that here. Yeah, so it was quite the trick to get the short rows in the back neck to work out when you're trying to follow a stitch pattern. So that took quite a while. It took many hours on one day, and I talked about that on my Patreon vlog, but I finally got it, and then I did the math for the yoke, and I like to do my math before I start knitting. So I did all the math, and then I knit the yoke, and then I did the math for the body and started on that. But I'll be honest, I got I kind of ran into a creative slump in the past couple of weeks. So I was just getting bored with knitting around and around in moss stitch. So I decided to start the sleeve, so I had to do the math for the sleeve, and I'd been putting it off because I wanted to try something different with this one because it's a men's sweater. And I know when you go to look at buying men's, like specifically dress shirts, they have different sleeve lengths based on different fits and different heights. So that is something I wanted to try and incorporate because I know not every guy is going to have the same length of arms because I feel like their heights vary more drastically than women's do. Like I know you can have pretty tall women, but I feel like on average you have, or I guess you just have more men that are taller in the taller range, like 6 foot to 6'4". So I don't know what that is in metric, I'm sorry. But I feel like you have more men in that tall range than you do in women, or I guess you have a bigger range of height in men than you do in women. I hope that makes sense. So I think that's why they do that more so in men's shirts than they do in women's. So I would like to try and do that for this pattern. So I did a ton of research and I tried to figure out, okay, what are the sleeve lengths that correspond with different heights and height ranges. So I think I've got a pretty good idea after a couple hours of searching and putting together a spreadsheet of it, of what the sleeve lengths I want them to be. So it's gonna go something like 5 foot to 5'3", or up to 5'4". It's gonna have one sleeve length, and then 5'4" to 5'8" is going to have another length, and then 5'8" to 6'4", I think is how it's gonna go, is gonna have another sleeve length. So yeah, I hope that that works. And I was just doing that research online, and then I measured my husband because that's who I'm making the sweater for, and he actually fits perfectly in the height range that is in my size chart. So that's nice. But as always with any pattern that you knit, if you can measure the person you're knitting for, then that's definitely the way to go because these are all just based on averages and not everyone fits into that average size category. So if you can measure, the length of their sweater or their sleeve lengths in addition to, their chest measurements or their upper arms, that is really a great idea for a much better fit. But yeah, so I hope that that will create a much more accessible pattern for people, and especially for a men's pattern because there doesn't seem to be as many men's patterns as there are for women. So that's kind of why I developed this pattern. So yeah, it's nothing too unique or anything. I just took a very common stitch and wrote it up into my own raglan style, and it's a compound raglan. Sorry, I itched my neck and now it's all red. Anyway, I just wanted to turn it into my own kind of compound raglan style, which I really think creates a wonderful, wonderful fit. And I'll show you what I mean by compound raglan. So another pattern that I made was it's a pattern that's not out yet, that's why you guys don't know about it. But it's a cotton sweater I've shared before. It's in a cream color and it's knit with Lion Brand 24/7 cotton. And I'll show you what I mean by compound raglan. So I don't know if I've explained this before, but I apologize if I have. But a normal raglan, you increase at the same rate for every seam. So a raglan splits up the sleeves from the front and back, and you have a seam here, here, and in the back in the same spot. And so you are basically dividing them up into a front and a back and a sleeve. So here's the sleeve, and here's the seams. That's a raglan. So essentially a normal raglan will increase at the same rate for the sleeves and the body all the way down. So you're essentially making just one big, I think like a square or a rectangle, geez. So when you would lay it flat like this, you'd get a perfect square, I think, or rectangle. But when you do a compound, you're increasing at different rates for the front and back than you are for the sleeves. So you usually increase more often in the front and back, or at least that's what I found for my patterns. And it creates this nice S curve, which is what they describe compound raglans as. So it'll increase faster and then slower, and then faster again is a typical compound. So it's like an S. So fast and then slow and then fast. And I only do fast up front and then slow. And why you do that is because you want to get around the shoulders. So you want it to go fast around the shoulders and then slow down the slope of your arms. So that is how I create my raglans, or I try and write the math form. And I'll show you in a new pattern that you can see this pretty clearly. I hope it'll show up, but you can see that this has a nice curve right around my shoulder. So I'll show that to you here. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe if I turn the brightness down. Oh, that's even worse. There you go. You can see it now, how it has a nice curve. So it curves around my shoulder and then down. That is what a compound raglan does. So you increase really quickly up front and then slowly, and you vary where you place the increases, if you place them more in the front and back panels or if you place them more in the sleeves. So that's kind of what a compound raglan is, and those are my favorite because I think the fit is unlike any other sweater. It fits you so well, and I love the shape of it. So that's what I'm doing here. This is a compound raglan for men, just knit up in a really simple moss stitch pattern, and I'm using Cascade 220 DK. I don't know the color. I'll have to put that in when I eventually put the pattern up for testing. But yeah, geez, sorry, that scratch just really will not go away. But yeah, so it's going pretty well so far. It's slow going. This is written for men, but you could also knit it for yourself or for women. It's totally doable that way. Just know that the sizing is for men, so it's based off of average men's sizing. But I mean, if you like a boyfriend style sweater, that's essentially what you would get by knitting this for yourself. So yeah, I don't know that I'm fully enjoying it anymore. I enjoyed the yoke because there was a lot of stuff going on, and it was challenging to keep the stitch pattern while also increasing and doing different increase amounts for the sleeves and the front and back, which was interesting. But now that I've kind of lost my knitting mojo, or I'm in kind of a slump when it comes to my creativity, I'm kind of losing interest. And that's why I started the sleeve. I did the math for the sleeve and started it because I know it will go so much faster. I mean, I just started this very late last night before I went to bed, and I'm already a quarter of the way done. Their sleeves are definitely longer than women's, but I'm a quarter of the way done, and it's going so much faster, and it will only continue to go faster as I decrease. So yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying the sleeves. The body is not as enjoyable for me because I think being in a slump, I just really want something more creative. And even that, I tried to cast on a couple new things, and even that I was just kind of like bored with. So I don't know what's wrong with me at the moment, but yeah. So I like the overall look of it, and I think I'm going to be really, really happy with the end result. And this is kind of a remade version of a sweater I made for my husband 2 Christmases ago, maybe 3 Christmases ago, before I knew anything about back neck shaping. So I knit him this whole sweater. I think it was in fingering weight, if I remember correctly, or something like that. It might have been in like a big box store DK, but I don't know. I always find like a Joann's or Hobby Lobby, I always find their DKs to be much closer to fingering. So it took forever, and then he tried it on, and it like choked him because there was no back neck shaping. So I added, I think, over an inch, maybe an inch and a half of back neck shaping, and I'm hoping that that's enough. I probably should have had him try it on by now, but I didn't, so it should fit. He's got pretty bulky back and back neck muscles because he does CrossFit and he lifts a lot, so it's probably more than like an average person, and I'm getting a little worried thinking about it, but we'll see. Maybe I'll have to have him try it on tonight or something. The reason I haven't had him try it on yet is because I'm too lazy to put some of the stitches on hold so that he can try it on. So it's my own fault. But that is that sweater, and I'm hoping to have this in testing in, I don't know, a couple of weeks maybe. I might even send it off to testing in my tech editor before I'm done with it, because the math will be fully written and the body is the easy part. It should totally work out. I mean, there's no shaping in the body, so the math should work out fine, and I'll test that one sleeve works out and then send it off to be edited and then test knit. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see, and I think that one will be released in, I don't know, mid to late December, probably around Christmas. So if you want to test it and you have someone in mind that you want to knit for Christmas, that's a perfect time frame for you, because it'll kind of give you that motivation to finish it by the deadline and by Christmas. So yeah, I have a tester email list if you ever want to sign up for testing. Everyone's welcome. I always do it first come, first serve. So I send out an email with a link to a Google Doc where I have just a big table of slots, and you just fill in the slot for the size that you want to knit, and then I email you the pattern. So I only have a few requirements where, finish by the deadline and make a Ravelry project page and to stay in contact. I've had to add to that a little bit about staying in contact because I've had quite a few people just totally not say a single thing to me. By the end of the process, I've sent them the pattern and I never hear from them again. So I'd rather have someone say, hey, I never started or I never finished it, than not hearing from them ever. So I'm kind of trying to add to that to hopefully prevent any people signing up and doing that to me in the end. Most people are fantastic. Most people give me lots of feedback and at least email me throughout the process just to say, hey, no mistakes, or this is all good. But there are some people I just, I've never heard from. So trying to mitigate that a little bit. But another thing I started, and this is a pattern I've had in mind for, I don't know, maybe like a year and a half. I have a bunch of photos of inspiration, usually from Pinterest or a big box store, like, I don't know, a lot of them are like British stores that I find inspiration from. But this one was a Pinterest photo, and it was like a travel photographer's photo of a scarf, and I wanted to make something similar. And so it looks a little similar, but there's still quite a lot of differences. But I'm happy with the way that it looks, and it's going to be a cowl, and I'm going to give instructions on how to make it so that it's just a cowl, and it's just, only wraps around once, so you only have that one loop, or how to wrap it around twice. So I guess that would be more like an infinity scarf. But the version I'm going to make, if I have the patience for it, is a 2-wrap around scarf, and it's using worsted weight yarn, and I believe it's on a US 10.5, which is a 6.5 millimeter needle. So it's quite a squishy texture, which I really like, and I'm using Dorero Natura Gilead yarn, and it's in their black colorway. I forget the name of it. This is the yarn that I used for my Murin sweater, which was a sweater I put out a couple months ago, and I had some left over, and it is so squishy and so warm, but also so lightweight. I think it's a partial woolen spun yarn, which means there's more loftiness to it. It's lighter, but still keeps you very warm. So it's just a standard black yarn or dark gray yarn. And here is the texture. It'll kind of blow out in the camera, but oh yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel like you can see that very well, but it's incorporating, it kind of looks like brioche, but it's not. It incorporates knit one belows and fisherman rib. So it's kind of, I took a while, and I don't know where my swatch went. I had a big swatch. Oh, there it went. I fell off. I had a big swatch where I was just kind of playing around with it. And the bottom of the swatch has a few, I played around with a few repeats trying to get it to work. And then the top, probably 3/4 of it, is actually the stitch that I'm using. And yeah, I don't know. I just was really feeling the need to start something new, being in a creative block. I thought it would help, and it hasn't, but I do like the texture a lot, and I think I'll finish it eventually, maybe, in a month or so. And it'll be for people who like doing the same thing over and over again. It's not for everyone, I know. Sometimes I'm just in that mood where I take it to certain events where I go and hang out with people. Like I'll take it to home church or something, or I'll take it when I'm going to hang out with friends. And I just want something kind of mindless to knit on, but it's not something I will do when I'm really feeling like I need to be creative. So, I don't know. Some people I know just love repeats. They just want to do the same few things over and over and over again, and so this is probably great for you. But yeah, I have a swatch I actually have 2 swatches drying right now that I'm not gonna share because I don't want to interrupt the drying process by going and picking them up. But that's mainly what I'm working on right now. I've been trying to figure out the math for that cotton sweater. I figured out, or someone pointed out to me, that the sizes for the upper arm circumferences for the first 4 sizes were a little tight based on averages. So I went back and I redid the yoke math for that to try and make them more, inclusive and everything. So that took a little while over the past couple of weeks, but now it is in testing and it will be out in mid-November, which is really fun. And it's the one that I just showed you a picture of. So that has a nice S-curve in the raglan. But yeah, another thing that I made, this was kind of my creative break for my birthday. I decided to just take the day off before my birthday to finish this cardigan because, I don't know, I was in a creative slump and I decided to kind of treat myself to that. And then I still worked later that night, but for the day I worked on this. And this is the Wixton Haori jacket. So it's kind of hard to see it, I guess, but it's in this nice, I don't have a clue what this fabric is. The store, or one of my local yarn stores, also sells fabric, and they were having kind of a scrap sale, or I don't even know what you would call it, but they had vendors out on the lawn in front of their shop, and they were all selling fabric, and a lot of it was really cheap. And so I went and picked up this fabric, the outer layer, and it was like $4 or something, and I still have leftover, so it was quite a really great deal. This is actually the wrong side of it, if you can believe it. The right side, which I didn't see until after I had bought it. My mom saw it and thought I was kind of crazy for buying it, because I don't like things that are sparkly or shiny, but the right side of this fabric is actually sparkles, and you can't even tell, you can't even tell at all. It doesn't shine through it. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. It was a really, really easy make, especially for someone who's a newer sewist or sewer. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed the process, and I just used a cheap rayon fabric for the lining, and I'm really happy with it. It's a new kind of project for me, which isn't saying much because, like I said, I'm a newer sewist, but it's fully lined, so you can see it's a different color fabric in the lining on the inside, and I really like it. It's super cozy. It has this kind of shawl collar that is really, really nice, and yeah, I can definitely see myself making a few more of these in various types of fabric. So this is pretty I don't want to call it super stiff. It's probably a medium weight cotton probably. It's not the softest thing in the world, but it's a woven fabric and it just I think will wear really well over the next few years, and I want to make a couple more, maybe one more in like a casual fabric just to wear around the house as like not a robe, but like kind of like a robe, and then I don't know, maybe a flannel one at some point. So we'll see. Maybe one in a really lightweight fabric too would be really nice. I don't know. It was a lot of fun and very, very easy, which I'm incredibly grateful for. So that was fun. I have another jacket that I'm planning to sew. I forget what it's called. It's like a quilted jacket. And I actually went to a church garage sale with my mom. I had passed it on my way to a yarn store. I'd seen the sign for it, and my mom and I love that kind of stuff because it's so affordable. So we actually went and found a bunch of really, really nice wool fabric, and every like bundle was $1. It was insane. So we got, I don't know, like 5 really nice pieces of wool, and then, it's like a yard or several yards in each piece for $1 each, which is amazing. And then I found this blanket actually, which, I don't know, it was in this interesting fabric, and I'm gonna try and make this quilted jacket with that blanket fabric. It's a massive blanket. It's super big. It looks like it's, a king size or queen or a king size. It's massive, which is awesome for using it for fabric. But it's got this really interesting texture to it. I don't really know quite how to describe it, but I'm trying to find the pattern that I'm gonna make, and it's the Grainline Studio Tamarack jacket, which this is just someone's on Instagram. But those were like the inspiration for it, or one of the inspirations for it. So it's a bright mustard fabric, which I've really wanted to wear clothes in that color. So yeah, that'll be really fun. And then the next thing I think I'm gonna make is a hinterland dress. I'm in the process of making a red one in like a wearable muslin fabric, but I have found that pattern pretty difficult to work, and I've been struggling with it, and it's taken me a long time. So there's a lot of moving parts. This was really refreshing because it only had like 6 pattern pieces. Super easy, very, very easy. Whereas the hinterland dress has a lot of moving pieces in it, and it's harder. I think it'll be definitely worth it, but I need to go finish my wearable muslin so I can make the main version, which I have been wanting to make and wanting to wear in the fall, which I don't know if that will happen. But it's also mustard linen fabric, which is really fun. So yeah, I don't know. I've been really enjoying sewing and baking at the moment. I think in my knitting creative slump, that's where I'm leaning towards. I'm forcing myself to do knitting work because it's my job and I need to do it, and I need to keep forcing myself to do it. But I'm also trying to enjoy those other things and not work as much, which is hard for me because I'm kind of a workaholic. So yeah, I don't know. But I borrowed my parents' KitchenAid mixer. I was trying to find one cheap to buy for our house, but they are so expensive. I don't think we could have found one cheaper than like $180. That's so much money. So last weekend we had some people over and had a little party for my birthday, and yeah, I baked up a storm, which I really enjoy doing when we have guests over, and I always go overboard, but I really enjoy it, and I like the opportunity to try out different techniques and try out different kinds of desserts. So I made a laminated dough for an apple crisp, or not an apple crisp, it was an apple tart. And then I did 2 different kinds of sourdough desserts, which I had never done before, and I had just made a sourdough starter a couple weeks ago. If you follow me on Patreon, you already saw that process, but I finally got it to work, and I made a couple desserts for it was supposed to be for the party, but I ended up making it the next day because it took so long for the dough to rise. But I really, really enjoyed how those came out. I made pumpkin dinner rolls and I made cinnamon bread. Both were sourdough, and I didn't have a mixer, so I did it by hand. And I could not do anything with my wrists for several days. It hurt. They were so bad from kneading the dough, and one dough was kind of like a brioche dough, which took me 35-40 minutes to knead by hand. I was just taking it and going like this, because you're kind of supposed to, at least I was supposed to kind of pull them apart. It took forever, and so I was like, all right, let's try and find a KitchenAid mixer, and they're too expensive, so I'm borrowing my parents because I forgot that they have one that they don't really use. So I am going to do that today. I'm going to make another dough, and it won't be ready until tomorrow. But tomorrow I'm going to make sourdough donuts, which I'm a huge fan of Bon Appetit and their YouTube channel, and Brad and Claire made a sourdough donut recipe. Now, it's not written down anywhere. Nobody wrote it down, so I had to watch the series 3 times over to try and piece together, all right, how do I make these? And I think I finally got it. I was, of course, working as I was watching, but I also have a notepad writing down all of the ingredients and all the techniques that they suggest. So, yeah, that's really fun. I'm looking forward to it. And I don't know, I think that's everything. But yeah, thank you guys for chatting today. I hope to see you next week. And about that, I almost forgot. I have 3 questions. Or 3 things, final things. First off, I'm doing a trunk show in Columbus, Ohio, here where I live. And it's in Worthington, which is like a suburb. So it's 15 minutes from downtown or something. And I'm doing it at a yarn store called So to Speak. And I actually did a yarn store tour of that. So if you're local on Sunday and you want to come say hey and see my samples, please come say hi. I'm super nervous about it. I feel like no one's going to show up, but I'm mentally preparing myself to be okay with that because it doesn't matter. It doesn't define your worth, right? So anyway, that's on Sunday from 1 to 3 at So to Speak. That's when I'll be there. And I might bake something, no promises, but I'm thinking about it. And then the second thing is Vogue Knitting Live Columbus is not this weekend, but next weekend. And that's really exciting. And so, yeah, I don't know. Are you going? I'll be there, and one of my friends, Ashley, just hit me up saying that she might be coming, which I'm so excited about. I hope she can. She'll be staying with us. Her and her husband will be staying with us, so we'll find a spot to put a blow-up mattress or something. So that'll be really fun. I was pretty nervous about going by myself, but now I'm feeling really excited at the prospect of her being able to come down. I haven't seen her since the Our Maker Life meetup like a 1.5 years ago in Chicago. So I'm really excited about that. And then the final thing, what was I going to say? Oh, I remember. So since next weekend is Vogue Knitting Live, I don't think I'm going to film a podcast because I typically film on Fridays and try and release on Fridays or Saturdays. But I'll be busy all day. I have a class at Vogue Knitting first thing on Friday morning. So I was thinking maybe we could do a Q&A video next week. I'll film it sometime. But if you have any questions that you would like me to answer, please throw them in the comments below. Yeah, I haven't done one of these since I think I started my channel, which has been about a year ago. No, it was longer than that. It was almost 2 years ago, wasn't it? So yeah, throw all your questions below. It doesn't have to be knitting related or design related if you want to know sewing things or baking things or things like that. I'm open for it, so I'll try and put a collection of however many questions I can answer in the time frame that I have, and I'll put that video out next week. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Please have a great rest of your week and weekend. And yeah, maybe I'll see a few of you on Sunday or at Vogue Knitting next week. But have a great rest of your weekend. See you next time. I almost forgot. This is my chair. It has a matching ottoman too, but that is kind of covered with stuff, so I'm not going to show it to you. But it's called a chair and a half, so it's like bigger than a normal armchair. And it has a couple of stains on it because it was not brand new when we bought it, but I'm just going to try and get those out with a stain remover. And yeah, I really, really like it. It's facing the window, which I'm kind of blocking at the moment, but yeah, it's really, really great.